Good evening, everyone. Well, we're preparing to wrap up another busy day in Scotland. I think we got a lot done. We have a lot of good substantive meetings, and with my fellow leaders, and most of all, it was critically important for the United States to be here. At COP26, back in the Paris Agreement, raising domestic climate ambitions and demonstrating a commitment to support the rest of the world, particularly those countries that are on the front lines of the climate crisis. Today I spoke with leaders of forested nations, island nations, developing countries. My message to them was the United States is going to be their partner as we meet this climate crisis. And I want to thank the United Kingdom and Prime Minister Johnson for hosting us, hosting the world at a critical moment, as well as I met with Prince Charles, who's put together a very significant operation over the last 6-7 years of trying to bring in the private sector to work on a number of these issues. Glasgow must be the start, as you're tired of hearing me say it, but a decisive decade of action so we can keep the limit of 1.5 degrees within the reach of us and the rest of the world. We have to keep accelerating our progress. Today's agreement by more than 100 countries, representing 85% of the world's forests, to halt and reverse deforestation by 2030, is a great example of the kind of ambition we need, and the United States is proud to have initiated and supported it. For our part, the United States is going to keep raising the ambition and delivering the goal that we are reducing U.S. emissions by 50 to 52%, as Secretary Kerry's talked about, from the 2005 levels by 2030. This decade, we have to make significant progress. And by the way, I might note parenthetically, I can't think of any 2 days when more has been accomplished dealing with climate than these 2 days. Overall, the past 2 days, I've announced a series of initiatives that are going to make sure we hit the target of including today 2 new rules to reduce methane losses from new and existing oil and gas operations and from natural gas pipelines. Thanks to the effort of our joint effort with the EU, we've grown global methane pledge. Remember, I raised it when I spoke to the United Nations from 9 countries signing on to that pledge in September at the United Nations. More than 100 countries have signed on. It's about half the world's methane emissions, 70% of the world's global GDP. We made commitments to promote climate-smart agriculture, spur innovation, catalyze private finance for a clean economy, and to drive high-standard, clean, climate-resilient infrastructure through the Build Back Better initiative. We had a great meeting today where we sat and talked about the whole focus of my Build Back Better initiative, which is adopted by the G7, was that everything should be focused on, as we help with the infrastructure of the rest of the world, which needs it badly, focused on climate. The example is if you build an oil well, if you build a gas or oil refinery, you're going to have that for the next 30 years. Well, why not invest now if we're going to provide for the help for nations in solar capacity or wind capacity? So the point is, although we also brought through the new President's Emergency Plan for Adaptation and Resilience. We called it, I'm getting tired of acronyms, I have to admit to you, but it's called a PREPARE. We're going to support climate adaptation efforts in more than 500 million people worldwide. We also released our overall long-term strategy that outlines how we'll get to net zero emissions by 2050. You know, we know that this must be a whole-of-society effort. I'd also want to thank the representatives from the private sector and from labor and philanthropies, civil societies who are dedicating themselves to the climate action efforts we're all making here. That leadership, together with action by state and local and tribal governments, has been essential in the United States. That's why, despite the previous administration's pulling us out of the Paris Agreement and refusing even to acknowledge there was a climate crisis, we still brought down emissions during that period.